All right, Syrian. Well, people are clicking in and getting ready. Maybe Syrian, while we wait for everyone to kind of click the button, we'll give everyone a few minutes. Did you want to do
Yeah,
a little bit of background? I know this is our first webinar together, so maybe for people listening, I know we have intros a little, a few slides in, but would love to
yeah,
hear, quick background as we wait for everybody to filter in.
yeah. No, it's great to be here, of course, Conrad. No, my career spans back, 20 well over 20 years, and really, I started in the medical industry. Kind of had my own little software company. I like to say I was SaaS before SaaS was cool. Kind of did all that, but over the course of the years, I've kind of found my way into hospitality. Even had a little bit of real estate investment experience in there, and about now 3.5, almost 4 years into the vacation rental industry. So, working in a variety of different kind of operational fashions, homeowner relations, different things like that. So, yeah, it's real excited to be here with you and kind of learn from you a little bit.
Yeah, this will be fun. So I see some people already in the waiting room or in the room here that have been to previous ones. So as you know, I did a few of these solo already, and it's fun. I don't mind being solo, but it's kind of hard to monologue for an hour, to be honest with you guys. So this will be fun today. I think, as we'll be able to play off each other a little bit, and we got some stuff
Yeah,
I think that's really educational on both sides. There's a website component to what we're going to talk about today. There's a software component to what we're talking about today. There's a I think just like copy perspective, there's the way the website works. There's so many different pieces to kind of, file into. So we'll get going. I know a few more people may come in later, but they can check some of the intro, perhaps in the recording later on if they want to. So if you're here live, I think we also got some extra bonuses at the end. So make sure you stick around for that. I think you'll get some benefit out of
absolutely.
those pieces. And Siren's got some special offers. I got some special things that maybe I haven't given away before that we put together for this presentation. So hopefully there's some value there. But yeah, we'll get going. And yeah, for everyone else to file in a little bit later, maybe they'll miss some of the initial things at the beginning, but that's okay. So yeah, for those of you, excuse me, new to kind of these webinar series that we've been putting together here, my name is Conrad O'Connell. I'm the founder of Build Up Bookings. We are a digital marketing agency specifically focused on search, social, and email marketing for vacation rental managers. Last year, I wrote a book called Mastering Vacation Rental Marketing that is now, luckily, come on to be an Amazon.com bestseller in the direct marketing category. And I've really spent the last 9 or close to 10 years, I say plus because it's close to 10 years now working with vacation rental managers, previously for an agency, now starting my own. And I can really attribute, over $50 million of direct bookings through the campaigns that myself and my team has put together and run here over the past, handful of years. So, Sarah, now you did a little intro, but do you want to dive in a little bit more what you're focused on today?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the introduction. Yeah, my name's Syrian. I'm sales director here with Direct Booking Tools. And, I got over 20 years experience working with various companies in a variety of different industries from, first the medical industry all the way into insurance and even now into vacation rental industry and hospitality. Over the course of my experience here, partnered with over 300 companies in this space, providing various tech solutions as well as just improvements to operations processes and different things along those lines. And happy to really kind of talk and jam with you today, Conrad, on websites and direct bookings.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'd connected before, and Siri, and you were one of the people on my list when I went to VRMA a little while ago and said, hey, I got to come up with some partners to do these webinars with. And luckily, you were the first one that said yes. So it's a good thing because now we can kind of go through
So
everything.
so
Yeah.
you're saying I was the first one for the glutton of punishment then? No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
perhaps a little bit, never know what you're going to get here. So there's some there. All right, well, let's go. We got a lot to get through. So I got kind of some stuff. Siren's got some stuff. We'll do a little bit of trading, but for the most part, I'm going to take kind of the first block here and dive into some of this information. So my goal today is to talk about kind of each of these four areas. So the topic, if you will, that we're really diving into today, just to get all the way back to the beginning here, is generating more conversions from your vacation rental website. So again, I kind of mentioned that there's a software component to it, there's a website itself component to it, there's a copy perspective here. There's a lot of different pieces. So I thought I would take each of these kind of bullet points here, which is data measurement on conversion tracking, understanding the steps of the booking path, how to eliminate distractions, and then kind of talking about like data integrity, sample sizes, and then how to make ongoing improvement. I've kind of got some thoughts on each of these four areas, and I wanted to go through them as kind of my take here on where potentially some of the tools that Siren's going to talk about a little bit later tie back into the website, or like having a more broader view or broader understanding of what you're actually measuring and what you're hoping to achieve. From my experience working with a lot of different clients over the years, it's usually most people have a traffic problem, but one thing that can exacerbate a traffic problem, in other words, not having enough eyeballs on your property or not having enough eyeballs on your website, is a conversion problem, right? So if we don't have many people actually entering into the so-called marketing funnel, but the people that enter in are falling out very quickly, that can be a little bit of a frustrating, scenario potentially to deal with. If you're a host, property manager, vacation rental manager, that can be, suboptimal. The what I see regularly though is that people sometimes actually start to get a little bit of traffic, a little bit more momentum in their business or their marketing, and then they're still not converting enough, visitors as to they want. So they get people coming in, checking them out, but they just don't get enough people actually finalizing the sale, completing the booking, and that can obviously cause some issues. So the first kind of section that I like to go through is these kind of three ideas that are ultimately all kind of tied together, which is data, measurement, and conversion tracking. So getting your data right is really the key, I think, in understanding if you want to really measure how things are working, you've got to have the right data in place. So, the first kind of section here I'll dive into is GA4. So, Google Analytics 4, if you have not been sort of exposed to this, was kind of our forced upon us by Google a little while ago. And now it's kind of become the default analytics platform measurement system that you have to use, or I would say you can use, maybe I should say it that way, for your vacational business. Now, almost every client we work with, including, spanning back now 10 years, has used analytics, Google Analytics specifically. Yes, there are other analytics platforms out there, but for the most part, this is kind of the industry standard. So if you're considering, working with an agency or working with other vendors or contractors on your website, most of them are going to say, all right, let me go ahead and get access to your analytics data from Google. Let me see how people are using the website. Let me see, kind of how some of the, people are interacting, what pages they're looking at, where they're coming from, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of the standard, if you will, like I'm saying, for measurement. And although we get a little frustrated, I admit, at times with analytics and sort of how it works, it is your friend, in my opinion, because that's where you're going to have to get all the information to make your measurements, like understood and make them successful. So if you, one thing I think that can happen from time to time is people have a feeling of how their website converts. Well, I feel like I'm not getting enough bookings, or I feel like I'm not seeing enough success there. That's not optimal. If we're trying to like actually measure how, your website is working and how many conversions you're getting from it, we want to measure. So we'll talk in a block here or in a second here about the different portions of the booking path. But just to kind of get ahead of myself a little bit for a second, you've got people coming in on the website. To most vacation rental websites, it's the homepage or it's some kind of like area page, maybe a category page. For example, they're looking at all your pet friendly listings, that sort of thing. They could also be looking at like an individual property detail page. So they enter in through some methodology or some way. Then once they're there, they take all these actions. They do date searches. They look at the photo gallery. They eventually, hopefully, start a checkout process. And then, really importantly, or really hopefully, they actually complete that checkout process. So there's all these different interactions that they have. And I think reviewing the right metrics is what a lot of people need to spend a little bit more time on. Is that kind of getting the right metrics in place first with GA4, and then once you have those in place, actually reviewing the right ones. And I admit it's challenging because if you log into the GA4 kind of dashboard, you're met with, I mean, I kid you not, like hundreds of different numbers that you can sort of slice up and modify and look at. But the ones in my mind that really make a meaningful difference to like your actual performance of your website is those kind of, again, those like pillars, those pieces, right? How many people are coming in? Where are they coming from? What key interactions are they doing on my website? Again, dates, photos, rates, checkout starts, checkout completes, those sorts of things. And again, how am I able to again, improve those or modify those things and make those a little bit better. So once you have the data hooked up through analytics, you're reviewing the right data, then I think you can actually start benchmarking and actually creating some results that you might expect to see. So for example, instead of saying like, I feel like I'm not getting enough bookings for my website, it might be better to say, okay, 1,200 people came to my website last month. Of those 1,200 people that came to the website, 120 of them actually put in dates on my website. Of those 120, 65 of them actually, went to the checkout page. Of those 65, 10 of them actually converted. Like those are the kind of numbers you want to actually have in front of you and be able to review so that you can understand what the metrics are, what the information is, what the data is showing you. And then you can make better judgment calls based on what you're seeing there. And again, we'll get into this a little bit more in a second, but the more data you collect, generally the better off you are. But when you're reviewing it, I think you want to focus on a few core ideas. You don't want to have, 1,000 different things that you're looking at because then it just becomes overwhelming and there's just too many things on your plate there. Um, so because I kind of already alluded to it, we'll head into this next, which is this idea of there's steps of the booking path. And for the most part, although people may enter in, again, like I'm saying a second ago, in slightly different ways, some people may enter in through your homepage. That's like the most common way. The joke I'll make with clients sometimes is like, this is like someone knocking on your front door. Most people coming to your house will knock on your front door. But if they're looking for something more specific, they may not do that. So for example, a lot of our clients that we work with on the property management side of things have people entering their website on like a collection page or a category page. So for example, someone does a search on Google for, Myrtle Beach pet-friendly vacation rentals. They come on a page that you have on your website that you built out that lists all the pet-friendly vacation rentals. So, there may be slightly different entry points, but for the most part, once you've actually arrived at the website, they're going to do a few things. They're going to do a search. That's going to lead to a set number of results or a certain amount of results coming back on the property side of things. They're going to go to a PDP, or is my abbreviation, but a property detail page, a page for an individual listing, and then they're going to go through the checkout process, right? They're going to start it and they're going to complete it. And then some clients might have a little bit more multi-step checkout, but that's kind of the basics. So if you want to know what, kind of data you need to collect, you need to think what the funnel is happening, so from this whole process. So if there's a search result, there's a search, there's results that come back, there's property detail page views, and then there's a checkout start and a checkout complete. I think the best thing to do is and sometimes we all need to have this reminder, myself included, is to look for friction points along each one of those pillars. So when you do the date search, for example, are things very clear as far as what filters you may or may not want to apply? We just got back a few weeks ago from DARM, and there was a lovely presentation there from Amber Carpenter from Vtrips, and she was talking at length about all the data that Vtrips has now, given that they have all these different websites and brands that they've acquired over the years. That the number one killer of conversions on the data that she was sharing was people when they go to do a search, they end up getting back zero results. So if they put in filters that are too restrictive, like I want to come on Christmas and I want it to be pet friendly and I want it to be 3 bedrooms, and then they click search and they come back with no results, that's going to be a conversion killer. So you want to look for these friction points in each of these different processes. So the search, the results that come back, the property detail page, and then the checkout. And you can probably figure out if you can improve each little piece of that puzzle or each little step there along the way. That's where you can really double or even triple conversions, because making a 20 or 25% improvement into each of the different areas can potentially lead to a lot more people actually finishing the booking process. So, to give you an example, it's like if I get 20% more people to search, that's now 20% more people that are going to look at a property detail page. Of the people that look at a property detail page, again, maybe if I can get 10 or 15% more of those people to actually start the checkout process, that may end up being, 3, 4, 500 people each month, depending on how much traffic you have, actually going to the checkout page and looking at it. If I can get a few more percentage people who actually look at my checkout page to complete it, now I've gotten a significant benefit there and a significant return there. So friction points in my mind, I gave an example a second ago there on the search side of things. Some things that come to mind that I have in my notes here. Page speed is always one that I think makes a meaningful difference. Now, I do think page speed can have diminishing returns. At some point, you make the site fast enough, and it doesn't have to be something that you tweak or modify or change, endlessly or relentlessly. But at some point, I would say it's worth getting your page load times under a certain level. The number I've kind of used internally with my team is somewhere around 3 seconds. That seems to be where there's a meaningful change as far as people who are actually happy with the speed of the website versus a site loading at 5, 6, or 7 seconds on each page. People seem to be unhappy with a site that's that slow or that takes that long to load. So 3 seconds is a good, metric point for something like page speed. Other things that come to mind, we'll talk about this a little bit later too, but what device people are using. And again, I'll call myself out here because I'm guilty of this at times too. I often am looking at, our clients' websites or clients that I'm, reviewing or potentially working with on this desktop that I'm sharing this presentation with you on. I'm on this desktop all day while I'm working, but it's not really the experience that most of our, customers have, most of our guests have, I should say, excuse me, when they go and potentially make a booking on your website. Most of them, if you look at the data, are actually on their phone, and many of them may have different phones, whether it's phone, Android phones, iPhones, etc. So you've got to also think about going through the whole process, both on the desktop, side of things, the desktop computer, if you will, laptop, desktop, whatever the case may be, and also on the phone layer. So we'll talk about that more later, but that's another thing to think about throughout this process. And you'd be shocked how often, I open a client's website on our phone, on my phone, and I start to go through it, and I click on, like, for example, a date field, and a keyboard pops up. Like, that's one thing that happens quite a bit when I'm doing these audits and reviews. So I'm trying to enter in dates, like I want to travel on, specific time frame. And then when I do that, my phone keyboard is popping up, excuse me, because they don't have the proper input fields in place. Tiny little thing, but it's like one of those things that over the course of a month, a week, a year is going to add up and confuse and frustrate people, and they're just going to leave and they're not going to actually make that booking process. So it's not the case, I would say necessarily that you can make a website as good as Airbnb or Vrbo or some of these large OTA brands. I think that's a fair assessment, obviously. And guests understand that, right? Like, they're not expecting your site to work exactly like a large OTA like Airbnb and VRBO. But I think if you put no effort into it and you don't make it at least try to be somewhat comparable, that's where I think, clients that we've looked at in the past or people that have very low conversion rates, they put no effort in. So there's a big gap between a perfectly polished, website, like a large OTA that has everything all working flawlessly, and then, the template site that maybe you just stand up from your PMS and you don't tweak or modify at all, that doesn't have any sort of, of these conversion elements in place. There's a big gap between those two things that you could explore in and figure out what's going to, work best for you. Last idea here, kind of on this note, is checkout. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the more people we get to the checkout page, the better we tend to do, and the more people we can get to convince, to actually complete the process once you get to checkout, the better that we're going to do as well. So I got a few kind of ideas here that I could share with you. pretty much every client that we've been able to do this for has seen a lift in conversions. If you can remove distractions in the checkout process, that's almost always one of the most universally beneficial things that we've been able to do for clients in the past on their website. So when you actually make it all the way through dates, we put in rates, we decided on a property, we're excited to come and stay, and then I go to that checkout page and there's a live chat popping up and there's navigation on the top, encouraging me to give them a call and list my property and there's a blog link up there and all these things. That's the moment where I want to eliminate. I want to be silent. I want to be quiet and let them actually complete the checkout process. So you don't have to be, an expert to realize that this works well. If you go to Amazon.com on your desktop computer and you go to buy something on Amazon, their homepage is incredibly busy. There's like, if you go on the homepage of Amazon.com, you'll see 1,000 sublinks and menus and personalized content and all this kind of stuff. But when you get to the checkout on Amazon.com, it's insanely simple. Like there's a logo on the top left corner. There is a back button if you want to modify your cart. Other than that, there is nothing. There's no other, like little rabbit hole that you can escape out of other than what they're legally required to put at the bottom, an address or a privacy policy or something like that. So Amazon takes all the data, and once you actually start the checkout process on Amazon, we eliminate all the distraction, and it's all about put in your credit card, tell me where you want me to ship your actual products, click the button, and then we'll take your money. And Amazon is better than that online than pretty much any other company out there, including the OTA platforms. So if you're going to spend time and you have enough traffic to review one area of your website the most, I would say maybe start at the checkout and maybe consider working your way backwards in this funnel. So maybe start at the checkout, then look at the date search on the property detail page. Maybe that could be the next thing you look at. Then maybe you go back and look at the search results. Then maybe you go back and look at how people enter in those dates, enter in that search criteria, and go from there. That can be a really good way to, drive results. So I kind of touched on this a second ago, but just to kind of, hit on these points a little bit more. If you focus on guests, the number one lever is that checkout page. So when they actually get all the way to the end, what can I do to make that a little bit more clear? I'll also say, another kind of area for improvement or opportunity for most clients we work with is being more clear about the fees you're charging and why. So this wasn't in my outline, but I had a conversation with a client just yesterday after I put these slides together. And we were talking about the fact that they were very fee light, which they thought would help them quite a bit, attract more guests or attract more people to actually book with them because they only had a cleaning fee and then a tax fee, which they're legally required to, collect in their particular jurisdiction. And I said, okay, like I hear where you're coming from. You want to be fair to the consumer. That's positive and good in a way. The trouble is that, it was really hurting their revenue. So the thing they were struggling with wasn't the idea of charging the guest fee. The really piece that they were very, I guess, like hesitant to move forward with is how do I explain the guest fee? What does the guest fee actually offer to the guest? It's going to help my bottom line. That's great for me, but what's the benefit to the guest? So we sat there for, 5 or 6 minutes and we thought about it and we came up with some of these, copy words or some of these, messaging points that we would have around the guest fee. Well, the guest fee covers our local support, so Airbnb says that their guest fee or their service fee covers support, but that's a call center, overseas, right? That's not the same thing as, if there's a problem, this client's going to sit up there and roll a truck out to you and fix a, broken faucet or something like that, right? So that was us explaining the guest fee as like, it's providing these essential services for your stay. So once she got more comfortable in actually putting these fees on the website, she feels a lot more, successful in doing that. In theory, like a fee adding on the checkout could potentially hurt conversions. I don't think it will though, because I think we've explained it, and I think guests now at this point are used to the fees, they understand the fees, and they're comfortable with them. So while that may not have worked as well 10 years ago as it does today, because now guests see these fees all the time, it's something that you got to test again, collect data on, and modify from there. So that wasn't in my outline; it didn't really fit into anything, but I just wanted to think about this idea of like how we explain things can matter quite a bit versus just doing them. I think one thing that people don't want to see is something that's like admin fee, $100 with no explanation on it, right? But if you can explain like what that fee actually does or what it provides to the guest, there's some benefit there or some understanding of it, that can make someone a little bit more likely to check out. I'll touch on this more a little bit in a minute here on the next section, but you certainly do need traffic volume to see results. Like if you have 5 people a month going to your checkout page, let's focus on the traffic before we focus on the checkout page, right? We just don't have enough volume to see the results there. So we'll come back to that in a minute. But there is an element or there is a portion of this that does rely on a certain amount of volume coming into your website to be more successful. And I kind of think of it as like, different workouts, right? Like if you're working on your legs all the time, maybe your legs are gonna be amazing shape, but if you never lift, a dumbbell with your arms are gonna be kind of weak. That's kind of this idea I have a little bit between generating traffic and then converting that traffic. Some clients that I've worked with are really skilled at one and the other. And then, the most successful companies are really skilled at both. They can drive a lot of traffic and then they can convert a lot of traffic into actually bookings. Again, I might have touched on this a second ago, but just to go through it a little bit more, go to your phone to succeed. So, sometimes we all get distracted by our phones. The phones are a lovely tool and also a lovely sort of distraction thing here that we have anchored to our hip at all times. But that is what your guest is using when they actually go to book on your website potentially. So go to your phone, use the website on your phone, try to go through the whole process. I mean, heck, make a booking on your own website through your phone. Go through the process of entering in your own credit card number. Go through the process of, reading the terms and conditions or the booking policy on your phone and see what that looks like. And you may realize like, oh, I can't really see the text. Like this is covering, that part of it. Again, I opened the credit card field and it wanted me to type in with, a text keyboard instead of a number keyboard, which is kind of annoying if you're typing in like a 16-digit credit card number. There's all these things that you can look at that are on your phone, where again, most of our client data tells us that roughly 60 to 70% of people using your website are using it on your phone. So it may look amazing on desktop. Again, this is my weakness too. But if they don't actually understand how it works on the phone and some of the pieces that Siri's going to talk about here in a few minutes, you may potentially be coming a little bit short there. So again, we touched on it a little bit over the last few minutes, but having, a small sample size can be sort of the death of this project, I do admit. If you're trying to improve your conversion rate, but you don't have enough traffic, you're not going to be necessarily super happy. So if you were to go to an A/B testing expert, who might work with largest brands in the world, and you were to say, hey, I'm going to run a test on my website, on my vacational website to see if, this checkout that I have now converts better than my old checkout. What that person might tell you is that 1,000 is the key number. They actually want to see 1,000 conversions, not visitors, 1,000 conversions in order to know with some level of certainty that version A is doing better than version B. This is kind of why, by the way, to go on a small tangent here, why I don't like people suggesting A/B testing, because if you're doing it right, you need a lot of data to actually back up, your sort of insights or your supposed insights with A/B testing. And I think A/B testing can be a little bit of a cop out because people will say it as a way to be like, oh, we don't know which one's going to work better. Let's do an A/B test and see which one works better. If you have a lot of data coming in, perhaps you can go down that path. But for 99.999% of clients that we've worked with over the past 10 years, they don't have that much data coming in. They probably have more like 10 bookings coming in each month on their website, or closer to 10, as opposed to 1,000 coming in, where they can actually do that meaningfully. So you want the biggest sample size you can get. But just to put that in context, when you're making changes, you got to give it a little bit of time, because you may have a bad week, you may have even a bad month or a seasonally slow month. Even though your website might have gotten quote unquote better, you may not see that impact right away, depending on when you launch these things and depending on how large of a sample size you have. So don't get discouraged, because again, in a perfect world, you would test things with 1,000 conversions. Again, not visitors or clicks or views, but 1,000 conversions to really be able to test the two. So get as close to it as you can, get larger sample sizes if you can, but also don't, beat yourself up too much if you have less traffic coming in. You probably want to focus a little bit more on driving more traffic as you, kind of correct it there. So that leads me to my next point, which is that it's great to have data. I spent the whole first portion of my little section there talking about data, using GA4 to get that information in place. Yes, please do that. But you've got to have gut feel too, right? Like if you use the website and it's objectively bad, it's objectively slow, you can look at all the data in the world, but like I think it's important as the marketer, or like if you're acting kind of as the quasi marketer, for this side of your business, you've got to have some level of gut feel or taste. Like, what do I want to, when I go through and use a website, what do I expect to see? What am I hoping to, achieve and go through when I'm using the website? And that's why I think data is great, but you've got to have a certain amount of, intuition or gut feel or whatever you want to, call it, to see if the changes you're making are actually providing beneficial on each of those layers we talked about before. Search results, property detail page, checkout start, checkout finish. There's pieces along the way there that you go, that just doesn't look right. That just doesn't make sense. And if you're making that based on gut feel, I think that's okay. I don't think you should try to back up everything with data, because again, you probably don't have enough sample size to really make that data flawless. It can help you. It's a useful little guide, but it's not going to be the most valid way to do it. Last thing I'll say here, again, had a meeting recently that kind of triggered this thought, is month over month and year over year comparisons. So if we can compare 2 months that are somewhat similar in season, that would be great. So if your February and your January are pretty similar booking months for you, great. Let's make changes and see how, January compares to February. But for a lot of our clients right now, like November will be quite a bit slower than October was. So if we do a month over month comparison of a change we make on the website to the checkout page, and we compare November to October, again, the checkout may have gotten way better, but we got less conversions because it's a slower month. So just don't fall into that trap. Don't do a month over month comparison in the wrong season. Try to do year over year, if you can, as you kind of get along here. So Siri, let me kind of get you going here. I know I went on my little portion there. Anything else that you would add into my piece before we get over to your pieces?
No, no. I mean, you covered everything really well. I mean, you're getting the guests there, the journey to kind of get them to that checkout page that plays in very nicely to exactly what I'm about to talk about. So, yeah.
Take us away, my friend.
All right. So yeah. So again, thanks, Conrad, for letting me kind of talk a little bit today. But a few things that I'm going to cover today. First, kind of talking about real-time price comparisons, building trust with a guest. Conrad got he's got everything getting these guests to that checkout page or getting them through the booking journey. We're going to talk a little bit more about that final mile, as I like to call it, the final mile of the booking journey and getting them to that finish line, including discussing things like cart abandonment. I mean, I know it's something that we definitely have to look at. Where Conrad, you talked about data first, I'm
Mm.
going to actually utilize the website and the data collected from the website to then kind of talk about what we do with that in the future and how we incorporate that into different parts of the operation of the business. And then, of course, not really the enemy, but more of kind of an ally in the direct booking process. Like, how you utilize the OTAs with the billboard effect, but then also monitor them to bring them back to your website. So there's a couple things that I'm going to cover today. I'll kind of start really with the price comparison. Why do we have price comparisons, or is it something that could be very useful? So, Conrad, do you know when price comparison tools first really kind of started?
In our space, no. I mean, to me, you guys are kind of trailblazing here, but I can't think of many things that I saw like this previously.
Yeah, no, we are really kind of trailblazing it in this space, but price comparisons themselves go all the way back to the early 90s with some e-commerce sites.
Mhm.
Some companies realize that when they have, transparency in pricing and they kind of show their competitors, they're going to get, a lot more trust, a lot more brand trust. Bargain Finder was a company way back in the early 90s. I know I'm dating myself here. That really started with the price comparisons. Hotel industries have had them for a long time. Around 2015, the hotels realized that some of these price comparison tools were some of the OTAs like Hotels.com, Trivago, Kayak were pulling people away. So they combat that with bringing their own price comparison tools in. And it's something that we definitely kind of deal with here within this industry. So, just the price comparison tool itself has a variety of different benefits, which I'll kind of talk about here in the next slide. The first one being a very clear value proposition. You know, if you're showing your competition, quote unquote, if you're showing their pricing and you got a better price there and you're showing apples to apples, then obviously that's a very clear value proposition on why Booking Direct is going to be a great option for you. There's a very common misconception that pricing on the OTAs is the best price. 82% of the general public believes that Airbnb offers the best price. We all know that's not true. But I guarantee if you kind of walk down the street and talk to a couple of your neighbors, they're probably going to say like, "Hey, where are you going to book your next vacation?" They're going to talk Airbnb. There's that brand there, So, you know, Conrad, you talked a little bit about minimize friction, and
Mhm.
I always like to say, prevent the booking detours.
Mhm.
Keep them on your website. You're probably better knowledge of this than I am, but how often do people get to the website and then they kind of get distracted and they go away and then they never come back?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think, and that's common at times too, where we've talked about this before with clients where you got to be careful what links you are popping up here or what things you do end up sharing because it might be a little bit confusing for someone. The example that I've given before is a lot of our clients will do email pop-up modals, and then
Yeah,
we give a discount code in exchange for that email pop-up modal, which is good. The downside of that is that if they have to go to their email inbox in order to get that pop-up coupon code, we've just lost them. They're now out in their
yeah,
email, and then if your email is anything like mine, I've gotten a dozen since we started this recording. It's then I'm a little bit distracted. So like one thing we suggest in that regard is when you give the promo code, give it right away. So they sign up their email address, but then put it on the thank you modal to make sure they don't leave, just to give like a very tactical example there. But yeah, that's the kiss of death for sure. A distracted
yeah.
guest is not often someone that wants to pull out their credit card and book.
Yeah, prevent those detours. Don't let them get away from the website. So, I mean, you did wonderfully in kind of talking about that booking journey. We want to make it as seamless as possible. So, what kind of things can we put into place, or what kind of options are out there to prevent those journeys from happening? Um, if they already see that they're getting the best price on your website, they have no reason to go back to Airbnb or VRBO or Booking.com. They have no reason to go back there. I mean, heaven forbid they go back to Airbnb, they're going to be inundated with a number of different properties that might divert their attention away. So we want to prevent those detours. There's always that consumer confidence. I'm sure a lot of property managers on here can say they get the question all the time, "Hey, can you offer me a discount?" We know what happens. Everyone's looking for kind of that deal. You're already showing them there. Hey, I'm already giving you a discount by booking direct. So that price comparison kind of gives that opinion that they're getting a wonderful deal and they're saving money by booking direct. And of course, they get that confidence in your company with the repeat guest bookings. But what I like most is when you start having people really book direct and they see the value of booking direct versus utilizing the OTAs, they start telling their friends. They almost that favorite movie phenomenon where you tell everyone your favorite movie, hey, check out this wonderful deal I just got or wonderful option that I had to save money on my next vacation. People love that saving money thing. They love to kind of share it, tell everyone about how they're saving money. So it's really kind of educating people when they see the value to that. So yeah. But let's kind of talk a little bit more about just, once we got them into the funnel there, they're going through the booking journey, they get that price comparison, they see that they're saving their money. Now, how do we reduce cart abandonment? I got be better than 70%. Conrad, are you a 70%er?
In what way? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
Good answer, good answer. How often do you put things in a cart but never purchase them?
Oh gosh, yeah, I do that frequently. Yeah, I'm definitely one of those.
So yeah, you and my wife will be very good friends. I think if I pulled up my Amazon account right now, there would be a million things in there. And I make the mistake all the time of checking out without looking to see what she put in there, but never purchased. And weird things show up the door all the time. So 7 out of 10 people will put things into cart but never purchase them. So 70%, but that's across all industries. Okay, that's not just here. I'm sure you got some better stats on really what cart abandonment is within our industry itself, but it's still an issue that we want to address. So how do we prevent that, or how do we keep people kind of moving through that booking journey? Just reminding them of the wonderful options that they have and the money that they're saving just kind of gives them that initial nudge or gives them that final nudge and that virtual pat on the back. Hey, guess what? You're saving all this money by booking direct. Let's get moving on. Like push them across that finish line. To your point, get them to the checkout page. I want to add to that. I want to get them to the confirmation page.
Hmm.
So that's reducing cart abandonment could be as simple as just saying, "Great job, you're saving this money by booking direct. Now let's finish it off. Let's get to that next point. Let's get your information in." But of course, at that final moment, it's a great opportunity to do some suggestive upsells. One of the things that we talk about is travel insurance. Adding travel insurance on is a very, very simple suggestive upsell. I'll tell you, we have a company we work with that convert their suggestive upsells at almost a 20 to 25% rate. It's just a 26 unit company. They do about 600 reservations a year. That equals out to with their 600 reservations, they increase just by doing the suggested selling, they increase their travel insurance about 300%, which when you kind of look at that, that's about $12,000 of ancillary revenue. So I don't know about you, Conrad, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people would love to have an extra $12,000 of revenue on their books.
Yeah, and
So
it's one of those things too, right? Where some of these things are very high margin, so not all revenue is made equal. Not to go too far off topic, right? But like
sure, of
your
course.
cost to fulfill the travel insurance is basically nothing, and your margin on it is basically very high. So I think these are things where if you can get someone to make a direct booking and buy travel insurance, you're making out so much better there than if they're taking that same booking on Airbnb, and the guest is getting kind of, unfairly treated financially in that arrangement, right? Airbnb is getting wealthy off of all these guest reservation fees, obviously. But is that really
Absolutely.
ideal for the property manager or the guest? Like I would argue not really. So
Yeah. And it's a conversation for a different day, but I mean, there's so many things that Airbnb is capitalizing on that you can capitalize on as that property manager anywhere from, like I said, the increased travel insurance all the way to the interest that you're making off your trust account for all the money that's kind of sitting there before those vacations happen. So,
yeah.
well, now that we've kind of gone through the booking journey and got them through the finish line, now let's talk about how we're now going back, taking all that data, that website data, and utilizing it in other aspects of the business. So, one thing that our tools are allowing the property managers to do is they see the quoting activity, they see the real human interaction on what people are doing on their website. Very similar to what you're looking at, Conrad. But we're kind of going through and monitoring the quoting activity. So we're seeing what they're looking at. We're seeing, what kind of properties they're looking at. We're seeing, the length of stay that they're doing. And all of that can really engage that property manager in what their customer potentially would want. So we're collecting that data and then we're kind of bringing it back. So, what I got on the screen right now is just a larger company on the Outer Banks, North Carolina. And we're looking at what kind of quoting activity. This is human interaction. These are what people are looking at on the website. We're seeing how many price quotes they're generating. You're looking at the pages that they're getting to. We're actually seeing kind of what quotes they're getting, how many different properties they're looking at, and we see the ebbs and flows of the business through that quoting activity. From there, you can actually start to forecast your future demand. So if you look at the next slide here, what we're showing is we're collecting all that quoting activity, monitor or we're registering all the different things that people are searching for, and now coming back and being able to see as people come to the website, what are the most popular things that they're looking for from the time of the time that they plan on coming to their length of stay. As you can see on this one right here, this company is already starting their top three of the top four booking dates are all in June. They're already booking out next summer. So from that aspect, this will factor into your pricing strategies. This will really kind of determine what are you looking at in terms of minimum stays, all that can kind of factor into that. Every time I talk to somebody who loves data, they always kind of show me something different on these graphs. But overall, this gives you the ability to really stay on top of what's going on within your company, seeing what people are looking at, and then even kind of utilize that to help with your pricing strategies as well as your marketing strategies.
Mhm. Yeah.
I also like to say timing is everything. If we see when people are there and what they're looking at, how does that go into what you're doing in terms of marketing? So, Conrad, I know you look at it. When's the activity the highest on the website? So, I mean, we're telling you here, that Tuesday between, 10, 11, 12 o'clock, people are generating the most quotes on this website, which is kind of weird because I would feel they should be working at that time, but apparently they're dreaming of their next vacation. So,
I
you
think
know,
that if we knew how many people were visiting from their quote unquote work computers or work time when they were booking a vacation rental, I think if they couldn't visit our clients' websites, we'd all be a lot poorer. So it's a good thing that people are often booking these things in that context. I will say, this was not in our outline series, and so I'm going a little off script here, but um, this could be, if you had a lot of this data, you could potentially do a lot with Google Ads day parting with this data in place. So, for example, if you had an ads budget, and you may say, this looking at this data, well, I probably want to deploy most of my ad budget on Tuesday. I may not want to deploy much of my ad budget on Saturday. In fact, maybe I'll just turn off my ads on Saturday if they don't
yeah,
convert as well on that day. And if I spend double on Tuesday, I might get double more conversions because people are searching a lot more and they're more in that buying mode, in that context in that moment. So
absolutely. Because I mean, what's one of the core principles of marketing? Present your message to the person at the time that they're ready to buy. I mean, you want to kind of get that message right in front of them. I always thought people would be searching for the vacations on Saturday morning while they're drinking their coffee, but from what we see with a lot of the clients that we work with, that is not the case. I
yeah.
mean, you do have some on Sunday, but the majority of the time it is during the week. So, you look at the company from from a full company portfolio standpoint, but then also some of this data can be very much applied all the way down to the individual property level. So, are there problem homeowners out there, Conrad? Do you think that there
I
some of these
Are
people
there
deal with
non-problem
homeowners that
homeowners out
are
there from what my clients have said?
difficult homeowners?
Of course.
Of course, it's they always call you when something's wrong. It's never to tell you what a great job you're doing. It's always, hey, why am I not getting bookings? Or why is this not working? Why is not that working?
Exactly.
So with a lot of the data that we're collecting, you can actually see kind of what that quoting activity is all the way down to the individual property level. So from an owner relations or owner retention part, you can say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones at One Summer Place, we're doing real well with your property right now. We're getting a good amount of quotes, even though we're more in the off season. Or on the flip side, maybe they're not getting a lot of quotes. You can utilize this analytic as a way to really kind of justify some of the suggestions you're making for these homeowners. Obviously for a lot of these homeowners, their vacation rental is it's a business decision. It's very analytical. They want to make money off of it.
Yeah.
So you got to provide these analytics to kind of justify different suggestions. So it's not just lip service. So one of the things that we're going to do is we actually bring that all the way down to where you can kind of utilize that from that individual property level. But then also the data, if we're seeing what the different quotes that are being generated from direct bookings to Airbnb, and you see kind of where people are, where they're booking these properties and what kind of quotes they're getting, one, you can monitor to make sure your pricing's good. We all know that, some of these platforms are not perfect and occasionally weird things pop up. Maybe somebody at Airbnb's got a fat finger discount and all of a sudden your property's showing, $800 less than your direct booking price. the beauty of what we're doing here is not only are we monitoring that to where you can see that, but then we actually have little triggers set up that notifies people like, hey, your pricing might be a little bit off here. Go ahead and take a look at it. So yeah, so I mean the data is really kind of feeding back into the system that just allows you to kind of stay on your operations and make some educated decisions accordingly.
I like that. Awesome. Well, I think our next one is Q&A, and if you came in, I'm Syrian, so we got a few more things to dive into here on our side of things. So, first up, how can we as property managers let past clients know about the savings they can get by booking direct if they booked on an OTA before? So, I've talked about this one at length on the podcast that I do called the Heads in Bed Show, and I believe the price is a factor or is a reason why someone would choose to book direct. I also believe it is not the only reason, or even close to the only reason why someone would choose to book direct. So, I think sometimes property manager can take this messaging too simplistically, or they just assume, hey, if I say that it's cheaper on my website, then I will automatically get more direct bookings. Why would anyone ever book an Airbnb, when they can book on my website? And the truth is that they feel comfortable with the middleman. So some clients
Yeah.
look at it as almost like insurance, right? Like I'm paying $100 more, $200 more per night by doing this, but then I can go to Airbnb if something goes wrong. And some people feel some level of comfort in that. So should you let your past guests know through email marketing, through other types of media on your website, like a best price guarantee page on your website, about the fact that you offer the best rate compared to an OTA? Absolutely. Is it going to convince everybody? Absolutely not, unfortunately. So I think it's also a conversation around, how do I make sure that they can trust that they can book with me? Could I show lots of recent reviews from people that have booked on my website? Could I show, I went to a client's website recently on the about page, and there wasn't a picture of like a team or an office or anything. And I'm like, you guys are local, right? Yeah, yeah, we're local. Okay. And I'm like, well, let's show that. Like, let's show a picture of your wrap truck on the website. Is someone going to book because they see the wrap truck? No, of course not. But it builds trust in the sense that like this is a real company. I listened to an Alex Hermosi bit the other day about congruence, which is like this idea of like what I expect and then what I see. I want those things to line up, to the best of my ability. And I think a lot of, property managers sometimes struggle with that. They want to be seen as a local expert, but then they don't write any content about the local area. They want to be seen as a local expert, but they don't put an office address up there. We were talking about that, Syrian, before we hit record. This
Yeah.
idea that a lot of people don't have an office or it's not staffed or something like that. Okay, like I understand it, right? That's kind of the world we're in nowadays. But if you have an office, could we put a picture of it up there? Could we do some of these things? Could we show our past guests who book directs? Could we offer them some kind of guarantee? Should we make sure that our website looks nice, has a professional design, look and feel, so that they, again, feel like they're in the right spot to give someone thousands of dollars for a vacation? Yes, I think all those things are true. So to answer the question directly, email, I think, is a really safe way to let that price messaging be known. But I also think that you can't let them know that the price is better and then throw your hands up and say, well, I told them the price was better. And then if they booked again on Airbnb, they're a dummy. Like, there was some reason why they did that. And it wasn't just because of price. That's my take on it. So I don't know,
Yeah.
Terry, if you want to add in some other thoughts there.
No, that's exactly right. One best practice that we talk to our clients about a lot is just putting the price comparison tool right in the email. Like, show them right there. Show them that there's a potential for difference. I mean, all the things that you talk about with trust and having that middleman, that those are all very, very valid. But in the end, I believe that they're choosing the property based on emotion. They choose the property that they think looks the best, but when it comes to the details of everything, it's very analytical. So when you are kind of giving that price and being very upfront with what the pricing differences are, I think that does help quite a bit.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Number two question, I think, Sarian, I'll probably kick this one your way to start us here. So, number two question was, what impacts have you seen the pricing tool specifically in increasing a PM's direct booking mix compared to OTA booking? So, any like case studies or data that you can reference, Sarian, as far as like people convert at a better rate, or they like return more direct bookings than OTA bookings by using some of these comparison tools? What's your experience there?
Yeah, so I mean, we see a pretty good mix all the way from 35% all the way up to 100%, where people are increasing just the amount of bookings that they're getting through utilizing the price comparison tool and different things like that. It does boil down to other things that are going on. What kind of marketing activity do they have? What's their reputation within the market? People are looking at reviews, different things. But almost instantaneously, when people see that value proposition that they're getting the best price with the direct bookings, a minimum of 35% is not, that's very common to kind of start there and only go up when it comes to those direct booking tool increase or mix increase. So yeah, 35 to 100%. I mean, we've
Yep.
seen people almost double it in a matter of a few months.
Yeah. And over the years, I mean, we've had clients that we've worked with in that same mix, right? We have clients we start to work with who are getting no meaningful direct bookings at all. And then we have clients we work with where they get 100% direct bookings. And I've always believed, by the way, like for the most part, that you really don't want 100% direct bookings. I mean, not necessarily. I think there's a healthy mix of people
Yeah,
coming in off these OTA platforms. OTA platforms have so much visibility, and to sort of shun them
yeah.
completely, I think is short-sighted and silly. So even if I, somehow found myself owning a vacational company one day, I would never optimize for 100% direct booking or try to
No,
think
no,
that that's the most optimal
no,
outcome.
you can't discount the visibility that the
Yeah.
OTAs give and kind of put new blood in the system, pardon the expression. We have talked with a couple companies that are 100% direct bookings and they're legacy companies, 40, 50,
Mhm.
60 years, in the making and everything on vacation destinations that have been popular forever, for generations. So, yeah, you can't discount what the OTAs bring in terms of just the visibility. You got to have that fresh blood in there. But we all know the benefits of direct bookings, and any way you can get those conversions up, that helps out.
Yeah. There was a question in here. How difficult is it to get the direct booking tools product working on my website? So what does that process look like, Siri? And if someone did want to install it, is it something they work with their developer on? What's that process look
Yeah,
like?
it's a very simple process. We need the list, we need your CSV listing file from VRBObooking.com if you utilize them. Just your account on Airbnb. Give us, a couple days to kind of get everything built out, and then it's just a couple lines of script that go on your website. Very simple install, about 5 to 10 minutes most of your time. The rest of it is all on us, but usually we're up and running within a couple days.
Yeah. There's a question at the end here. Let's say there was an error and Booking.com was in fact priced lower than Booking Direct. Would that show to the guest on the website? So if the does the tool actually just pull in what's from the database? Is that kind of how that works? Or how would that work if there was actually a pricing mistake and something was cheaper on Airbnb versus the website? How
Yeah.
do you guys handle that?
So they're pulling in those prices real time. So, but in the event that there is a lower price on Airbnb for some reason or another, the tool shrinks and it doesn't show that because again, we don't want to impede that booking journey. We don't want any distractions. If they see that the price is cheaper on Airbnb and they go back there, now they're going to be inundated with other properties that they're looking at. So what we do is we try to minimize those distractions and those detours. If it's lower on Airbnb, it just doesn't show that. It'll actually delete that. The tool will shrink down so it looks very seamless on the website because we want them to stay there. Again, no detours.
Yeah, exactly. I think the second to last one was for me, so I'll kind of take this one, Syrian. Besides website design and functionality, what other services do kind of we offer? Yeah, I would say in this specific context, we have done audits for people before. So I think if you have enough traffic coming in and you're looking for someone to like basically do some of the data collection or data setup sides of, the tracking with GA4, fee tracking, revenue tracking, understanding those different conversion funnel steps that we talked about previously, where there's search results, property detail pages, checkout, start, checkout, finish. I'd be happy to like, talk with anyone if they're on the call and they want to go through that side of it to get kind of a quote on doing like an audit or review. That's something we've done before and have had some experience with. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we have a few minutes left here, Syrian. I think we've got some special things that we can sort of give to folks for, attending and showing up here. We hope they're sending their questions, fly them in there. I think we got a few minutes left. Otherwise, we'll end this one on time or a few minutes early and give people back a few minutes in their day. But always appreciate people, spending some time, talking through some of these topics with us. And now we've got new partners coming in the fold. So we thank Syrian for being the guinea pig, if you will, on this. But it's been fun all around. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if someone's new or has not had the opportunity to pick up a copy of my book, I'd love to give one for free. If you are based in the U.S., I'm happy to mail you a physical copy. If you are based overseas or internationally, I could send you a PDF copy. I just haven't figured out that international shipping quite yet. But yeah, if you email me, Conrad@buildupbookings.com, just use the word bonuses in the subject line. I can send you two things. Number one, the book, and I realize some people attending I've seen before, so you might already have the book. But I also have the checklist that I talked about at the very top of my kind of portion that I could give you as well. So to be clear, this is the exact checklist that we use. It's a Google Sheets document that we use to actually run a conversion rate audit, on a website. So we're looking at both how the website works, how it's put together, the header, the footer, all the different page types that we talked about at length here. That is our checklist that we use with our clients or potential clients that we sign. So if you kind of want to DIY it and do it yourself, I'll give you a copy of that sheet. You can then go review your own website and see what's going on there. Obviously, if you want us to take a look at it for you, we'd be open to that conversation as well. But if you email me, Conrad@buildupbookings.com, put bonuses in the subject line, I'll send you, again, either a physical copy if you're in the US, if you'd like a copy of the book. But for, again, people that are kind of returning and have been to one of these things before, I got a checklist specifically kind of on the same idea, the same thread of what do I actually need to look for on each page type that I could send you. It's pretty detailed. It's like 100 items. But if you really want to dive deep and you want to scan through some of that stuff, I'd be more than happy to send that to you. And then you can even either DIY it or reach out to us and we could potentially run it for you. Siren, I think you got some stuff that you want to offer folks here at the end as well.
Yeah, we will as well. And if you haven't read Conrad's book, I will tell you I've read it twice. Amazing information. You did real well with that book. I know there's huge changes that have happened in the industry, especially in the past few years, and it just I don't think there's ever such a thing as bad information when it comes to just the changes that we've seen. So great book that you put out. I encourage anyone to take a read on that. So
Yeah.
no, from us over here at Direct Booking Tools, obviously we're here to help with your direct booking conversions. Anyone that's part of this webinar, you see the deals on the screen. We offer a risk-free trial. We want you to see results. We're there to help you succeed. We got a couple other tips and tricks on trying to drive people to the website as well, and just different ways. But ultimately, we want to see you succeed. So we're going to put our money where our mouth is and offer a risk-free trial. We're always a month to month, so you have no contracts. But also for the webinar folks here, we're going to waive all of our setup fees. And then we have some special webinar attendee pricing. Our pricing, does have a little bit of a range in it. It's based on volume, but it's a per property per month basis. But we got a special offer for anyone on this webinar that wants to kind of try it out.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, so there was one more thing. So first of all, we'll share everyone's email address who registered and showed up. I'm going to pop over Syrian's way so he can reach out to you guys. For those of you who are here with us, otherwise go to directbookingtools.com. You can get a demo with Syrian and with his team over there. If you go to buildoutbookings.com, click getting started, you can fill out a form there. One more question came in, so let me go back a little bit to this last one that came here. If you were short on traffic, as kind of I'm assuming the context here, how would I begin to generate traffic for the website? So yeah, in my mind, I think webinar we did two ago, maybe I could send that to this person who asked this question, but it was talking about where the most traffic comes from and how it converts. And I would say search traffic, social media traffic, email traffic. Those are your three pillars. So if you could start with one, I would start with search traffic. How can I get more people searching on Google specifically for my properties and what I have to offer to find my website? Obviously, the quickest, shortest way to do that is with Google Ads. So that would be the suggestion that I would have as far as how can I get traffic right away that's high intent, that's ready to book. Google Ads would be my safest answer to that particular question. But over time, I think you want to build all those pillars up. You want to build search traffic, both organic and paid. You want social media awareness. Again, you could do that both organic and paid. And you want an email list that you can market back out to so they come to your website and then of course they convert, which is kind of the topic of today's episode. So
Yeah,
Siri, I
and
think that's
if I
yeah, go
may,
ahead.
just kind of
Yeah,
adding
please.
on to that, there are different ways that you can utilize billboard effect with some of your listings on the OTAs without kind of violating
Mm.
their rules and regulations and all that stuff. Anyone that's kind of interested, we talk about in our demo on how you can utilize the billboard effect to really kind of drive that organic traffic to the website, to kind of help with that as well.
It's funny, Siri, and we actually have someone who probably will be a future kind of webinar training guest with us who wanted to do a whole hour just on that one topic. How can I
Yeah,
sort of legally and per the terms of service of these large OTA platforms actually peel someone off of an OTA and get them to book directly? And we've seen some things. If you go look at Sonder, for example, I know as a company or as a public investment, stock market investment, perhaps it's not the best. But if you look at their techniques and tactics of getting people off Airbnb to the Sonder website, it's pretty strong. So it's things like, for
it
example,
is.
naming the property a certain way, having the profile picture be very clearly a brand, introducing the name of the property in the initial line of description on Airbnb, having the logo of the company or the brand in the TV of the property. So there's all these like little tips and tactics, and maybe you've Syrian and your team has picked up some things over the years too of how to nudge people off platform, legitimately or illegally, I guess so to speak. Not illegal, but you know what I mean, like per the terms of service
Yeah.
for Airbnb and those other platforms. So I do think that's a skill that people can master and get better at. And we've had clients that have taken some of those things and they start to see an increase in direct bookings just because they're a little bit easier to find off platform. And ultimately, I would not want someone here to do something that would get their Airbnb account banned. That would not be a
Of
good
course
idea.
not. No.
But if there's little nudges or breadcrumbs we can leave on the floor that people pick up and we benefit from it, why not? It's benefiting the consumer, it's benefiting you potentially with increased margin if you're a property manager. So I see that as a win-win. And just don't get yourself in hot water with the OTAs. They're not listening, so we should be good in that regard.
Yeah, and I always say like, if you have a property, show the Airbnb listing to a friend that doesn't know the industry very well
Mm.
and see if they can take what's in that Airbnb listing and be able to find that property through Google.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and within that context too, you'd be shocked, Syrian. We did a previous podcast episode on this, for example, how often people name things like, something that's very common. So it's like the beach house 42. It's like, well, that's not
Yeah,
great, right? But
can't
if we
find
name
it. Yeah.
If we
Yep.
name something a little bit better, we have a better chance of it coming off platform. So yeah, Siri, maybe you can contribute a few ideas to that future when we do about kind of how to nudge people off platform, quote unquote, legitimately or the right way
The
without
right way. Yep.
yeah, without getting in trouble with the OTA platforms. Anything else, Siri, you want to dovetail into, or should we put a
No,
bow on
I
this?
think this has been great. Thank you so much, Conrad.
Yeah, no, awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the share and I'll wrap here in a second. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out to Sirian on kind of what he's doing. Feel free to reach out to me or the team that I have here at Build Up Bookings. Just go to our respective websites and people should be able to get in good shape. Other than that, we appreciate everyone's time and attention for making it their way all the way through here. If we can help in any other way, just send us a message, let us know. Otherwise, we'll be sending you guys some notes and some recordings after we wrap here. Thanks so much. Appreciate it, everybody.